Welcome back. Last night, you'll recall, we spoke to an international law professor to get some legal analysis of war crimes allegations against Russia after those shocking images surfaced showing slaughtered civilians in the town of Bucha near the capital Kyiv. Tonight, I want to change a bit of tack and go to a military expert for some comprehensive military analysis on what's really happening across Ukraine. Lieutenant General Peter Leahy served in the Australian Army for 37 years. The last 6 as our Chief of Army. He joins me now from Canberra. General Leahy, great to be talking to you again. Are Russian troops headed for defeat, as some suggest they are, or are they perhaps just planning to retreat in order to regroup and come back again?
It's hard to know, Peter, but it doesn't look good for them. We've seen them withdraw from around Kiev. They're moving back towards the east and to the south and concentrating their effort. But if you have a look at it in terms of the principles of war, I don't think they're going particularly well. And more importantly, they don't seem to have the equipment or the capabilities. And I think one of the real measures we need to take of it, what's going in Ukraine, is that they don't have the morale. They don't seem to have the leadership. They don't seem to have the will to fight or the capability to fight. Their equipment seems to be being knocked off pretty quickly. And you compare that to what the Ukrainians are doing, they have the will to fight. Some of the ambushes they've been conducting, some of the work that they've been doing, the special forces in the city, the special force police and so on, they're really putting up a fight. I think we should be proud, and they should be proud of what they're doing. It's giving us an example of what you can do when you really want to be a patriot for your country.
You're right, it's equipment and will. Are you surprised by then the Russian lack of will, the Russian equipment that's basically Soviet era 1970s stuff, I'm told, some 1980s material, but it's not the modern weaponry many of us, I think, assumed Russia would have?
It's certainly not what we were expecting. General Gerasimov, as the chief of their general staff, has been trying to improve under instructions from Mr. Putin for the last decade. And I think we thought that, in those sorts of terrain and the areas, that they might just barrel across the country and finish up on the Polish border pretty quickly, like a blitzkrieg. Well, it hasn't been anything like that. They've been bogged down. There doesn't seem to be much initiative. There doesn't seem to be any sustainability. I'm just listening through now what we used to call the principles of war. There was no surprise. There's no flexibility in what they're doing. And I think they're giving us a very clear demonstration of what not to do. So as to your question, do you think they're going to lose? Well, I think there's a big chance that they're on the downslide now, on the ledge of an operational loss. But I think the next big measure of this is the strategic loss. Can Mr. Putin hold to power? But the other issue is to think about Russia as a geopolitical power. I think they're much diminished. We talk a lot these days about soft power. That is, how does a country impress you? Why would you want to be like them? Well, no one in the world, maybe one or two, would want to be like Russia. They're on the edges of the human rights. They're on the edges of the United Nations. They're on the edges of any other international community at the moment. I think they're a much diminished nation. And that's going to mean a lot for us as we think about Poland, but also NATO, and whether NATO is going to become stronger out of this. And I think coming back to our own region now, will this make America more capable of doing a pivot? We've been talking about this pivot since 2011, make them more capable of a pivot into the Asia Pacific. We're seeing huge step changes in geopolitics at the moment, and it's hard to know where they'll finish.
Hey, look, just before we go, big announcement today from the Defence Minister Peter Dutton about long-range strike missiles. This is the ADF acquisition. We already knew about it, but it's being fast-tracked. What do you make of it?
I think it's a good move, the fast-tracking and the fact that we're getting the missiles. Our strategic update talked about shaping the region, deterring, and also responding to activities. And these sorts of missiles, as long as they get here quickly and we have the platforms to carry them, they are a good way to shape, but also a very good way to deter the region. So it's a positive move.
General Leahy, love talking to you anytime. Thank you for joining me tonight on Credlin.